Welcome to the training wheel. Today's edition is going to be over designated agency. Now, the designated agency agreement is something that seems to confuse a lot of agents. Let me explain it to you in the easiest terms. Designated agency works one way only. An agent at the brokerage has an already signed, sealed, delivered listing agreement. Another agent at the brokerage has a signed, sealed, delivered buyer's brokerage agreement. Now, throughout the course of the business, this buyer might be considering this listing. What do? That's when designated agency can occur. And there's no other way designated agency occurs. The way it would work is this. The state statute says that under designated agency, it has to be agreed and executed by all parties prior to the buyer's agent drafting a contract, which means it has to be done prior to the seller even seeing the contract. From a practical aspect, then, the best time to perform designated agency is when you're scheduling the showing. If you wait until you're already at the property, it's a little too late. You're already especially in the market today, you're already in motion for the buyer to buy the property. That's a bad time to start trying to do designated agency. From a practical standpoint, for me as a broker in charge to sign your designated agency, I have to see the listing agreement and the buyer's agreement prior to my signing it. The other thing to keep in mind is both the clients have to sign and agree the designated agency prior to me signing it. If I sign it prior to the buyer and the seller signing it, that's like the brokerage dictating to the clients, this is how you're going to do it. And that's not how we do it. The other thing to keep in mind with designated agency is that I need to see the listing agreement and the buyer's brokerage agreement. The reason for this is I have to confirm that the clients already agreed to designated agency. Another reason why it's important for you to have your listing agreement and buyer's brokerage agreement done properly in the first place. If you look at the very top line of the designated agency agreement, it even tells you this document is a modification to the seller's listing agreement and the buyer's agency representation agreement. Now, what you need to do is keep in mind that the buyer's name has to go in there, the boulevard company would be in there, the seller's name would be in there, and the full property address. Also, let the buyer and seller know. If you look under 1A, seller and buyer have determined the advantage of entering the designated agency agreement outweigh the disadvantages. What does that mean? Well, it means it's not a perfect system to begin with, but this is the route we all want to take. Another thing to keep in mind with designated agency agreement is that I, as a broker in charge, and all the other agents of the brokerage become dual agents. Best practice, don't talk about anybody else's business. Another thing to keep in mind with designated agency is teams cannot do designated agency. The LLR looks at a team as one singular individual, essentially. So someone on the team who's representing the seller, you can't have someone else on the team representing the buyer and do designated agency. When that occurs, the LLR looks at it as the chicken and the egg. Either the seller came first or the buyer came first. So from a practical standpoint, from a team, if somebody on the team has a listing agreement and the team has spoken about the listing agreement, if someone else on the team comes up with a buyer prior to signing a buyer's brokerage agreement, they can assist the buyer. They would do that under a transaction brokerage agreement. SCR Form 138 is the best practice there.